everybody, and welcome to our Infinity Flux 2023 Comics End of Year Review video. This has become kind of an annual thing, but if you don't know, I'm Andy,
I'm Matt.
and we're here with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, a actual comic book store
Yeah.
where we read these things. If this is your first time joining us, so the ordering for this time of year, especially this year, is a little bit off.
Yeah, it's a little bit wonky because Christmas and New Year's fall within a week of each other. This is our normal time slot for when we make a video talking about all the books that are on FOC this weekend, but there are almost no books on FOC this
Not
weekend.
enough to fill one of our regular
That's right.
shows.
There are a handful of books. There's no like Marvel or DC or Image or anything like that. There are some like Vault, I think,
Vault,
maybe.
Scout,
Yeah.
some of your smaller
Yeah,
publishers.
so definitely go check infinityflux.net if you want to see those, and you can still pre-order those right now as normal, but there's just not a whole smorgasbord of
Yeah.
books like there normally is. So instead, we thought we would, just talk about some of the awesome things that happened in 2023.
Yeah, so it's funny. It's hard to remember everything that came out because I was looking up things like, was that this year? Was that
Yeah,
last year?
yeah.
Type thing.
It all runs
It
together.
all runs together. Something started last year and ended this year, or continued this year,
Right.
that kind of thing. So, just a disclaimer: these are in no particular order,
That's right.
and these are definitely our opinions. You may have different ones. Let us know in the comments what your favorite books, comics, graphic novels, all of that was this year. We'd love to hear and maybe remind ourselves of some of that good stuff. But we compiled some of ours. I don't feel like none of these are going to be big surprises if people watch our
That's
show.
right.
But we like to reminisce about some of
Yeah.
our favorite ones. So we've got some categories and everything we are going to be getting into, starting with our favorite indie comics of 2023. There were a lot of good ones with all these categories. Too many to list
Oh,
everything.
for sure. Yeah, we made our notes, and our list for this one was like a page long almost, so we had to pare it down. And again, these are in no certain order, so it's not like number one, two, three, four, five.
Yeah.
It's just a grouping of our favorite books.
Yeah. So starting off, I kind of guess we just call this the Inner John
Yeah,
universe.
yeah,
Yeah. So start with the Void Rivals, and just recently, this is another one. It's like in this year, it just is getting started
yeah.
with Transformers.
Yeah, I hope it goes for a long time
Yeah.
because we just right on the cusp of the end of 2023. We got Duke,
Yep.
which that's another entry into the Energon universe, which is making it grow and expand, and it looks super exciting. Void Rivals is telling its own really great story, so don't sleep on that. It doesn't really have a whole lot to do with Transformers and G.I. Joe, but it's good in its own
Yeah.
right. So just everything about this Transformers is awesome.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I've read Transformers comics off and on, but I've never been like a huge Transformers fan. I know the general stuff. I've watched some of the shows,
Mhm.
that kind of thing, but not at like 100% or whatever. And I love this Transformers is like, hey, this is a book for new and old fans.
Yeah, well, yeah.
It's a new starting point. It gives new stuff for if you're a longtime fan. It kind of rearranges some things. But if you're brand new coming into it, we're going to tell you about these characters. We're going to introduce you to this world in a very like digestible way.
Yeah, and I grew up with Transformers like in the 80s, like with the cartoons, had the toys and all that stuff, and even had some of the old Marvel comics, and they were pretty good. But for some reason, I've never the Transformers comics, like from IDW, when I think they were in Devil's Due for a while, like they've just never connected with me, the comic books anyway, until this. And
Yeah.
this after that, just one issue, I'm like, I am completely sold. I am on board for as long as this wants to
Yeah.
run. It's so good.
Yeah, and you'll be seeing transfers pop up on some of these lists
Yeah.
throughout this entire show.
Hmm.
And same with the Void Rivals. That's the opposite thing where it's like no one knew what this
Right.
was, and a welcome story along with being tied to Transformers. And I'm just as excited to see what happens with our main characters in that as I am with Optimus Prime and Cobra Command
Yep.
and all of those. I can't wait to see what they do going forward.
Mhm.
Next up, the I don't want to say the return of Conan, but the
Well, the next era of Conan,
Conan the Next Generation.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, so this is Conan specifically, Conan from Titan Comics, and this has been awesome too. Like Conan's great. I've been, it's been a while, but I read, I've got a bunch of the omnibuses from the original Marvel years and read those, and those are super good.
Yeah.
And this book feels like those, and it looks like those.
Yeah.
It's he was
It's
with.
like the lost chapters to like the best of the original Conan.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, when Marvel was putting out Conan, they were good too, but they were, they were modern Conan books. It was very obvious they were modern Conan, but this looks like 1970s John Buscema
Yeah.
Conan, and it feels that way. It reads that way. Everything about it is just like classic. I love the
Yeah.
classic stuff.
Thumbs Up is definitely
Yeah,
kind of found the correct voice, and because it can be a little bit more mature at Titan than it could at Marvel, which is
right.
completely understandable because of Marvel and how they're structured and everything. So, but it's nice to get a little bit raw and a little bit edgier Conan as well.
Yeah, the first story arc was not zombies, but kind of sort of zombies. And like when we saw those in that first issue, I was like, whoa, Conan is going to be fighting zombie type
Mhm.
creatures. Like, yes, that's the perfect pairing.
Yeah.
Like everything about this is great.
Next up is World Tree. Now, this is one you haven't caught
I'm,
up.
I am now, as of this
Okay.
week. Yeah, as of Wednesday, I'm caught up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what is your impression of this now?
Oh, it's great. Yeah, because issue 6 came out this week, and it's been gone for a few months, and
Yeah.
it came back, and we talked about it on Wednesday. And after talking about it, I was like, I really need to catch up. I read the first 3 issues, fell behind on the last 2. So I caught up Wednesday morning, read all 5, and then bought number 6 and read it, and it is super great. Like
It's
it's
scary.
scary, but it's also like sci-fi. It's like
Yeah.
horror. And, they shut down the internet. Like
Yeah.
it's like, oh, that's it's awesome.
Yeah. I feel like so this is of course by James Tynion, and
Mhm.
this has enough of like real world horror, but with enough like sci-fi sprinkled on it that you don't feel like you're watching the news or something. It's
Yeah,
got a little bit weirder elements to it that
yeah,
are like, okay, this is kind of fun with our character fear that
yeah.
we don't even know what the scope of this is, especially the last few pages of issue 5
Right.
where you're like, whoa, this went in a completely different
It
direction.
does a thing that I love that comics do when just it gives you a little bit of a tease at the very end of like, here's 20 years in the 30 years in the future, however long it was. And I'm like, oh, how in the world do we go from this point
Yeah.
in the beginning of the book to this point at the end? I want to know that story. And I hope we get like all like and
Yeah.
to me, like that book could last forever, taking us all the way through
Yeah.
to that future. Like I want to see how it all happens.
Yeah. So very good, very mature, but if you like horror and kind of it's like hacker horror type
Yeah,
thing.
it's neat because it's horror, but it all involves the internet
Yeah.
and the underbelly of the internet and like not just the dark web, but like
The
deeper.
dark web's basement.
Yeah, deeper than that. And like, oh, if you see this, you're gonna go crazy, and it makes me like, oh, maybe I don't want to see it on the page, that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. But you're like curious, like what does it look like
Right?
and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
But yeah, great series. Now this is one I read the first volume, but you've read
Everything.
everything so
Yeah.
far.
Yeah, it's great. I just this so there are a lot, especially indie books, in my own singular opinion, that read better collected.
Yeah.
Like World Tree. I read it all 5 issues at once, and I was like, that was a great story.
Yeah.
There's just I don't know what it is about indie. Maybe because I'm not as familiar with the characters in indie books. It's a new story, new setting.
Yeah, you kind of need to be constantly reminded of their names
Right.
and
Like with
everything.
Spider-Man, it's like, oh, I can keep up with that because I know these characters. But
Yeah.
however, this is an indie book that I think is actually perfect for
Yeah.
monthly reading because every month you get 2 brand new stories, self-contained, don't attach to anything else. And it's just a treat to come home with like, oh, a new creep show. I'm gonna read these 2 stories. They're always creepy. They're
Yeah.
always like eye
Really.
raising and
Yeah, like I can't believe they just did that.
yeah, there's never one that's like, that wasn't all that's like all of them are consistently creepy and scary and you get new ones every month. So
Yeah.
like I think if I were to read this collected after a while, I'd be like, all right, I've read a whole bunch of like
Uh-huh.
little 10-page horror stories. I'm kind of getting burnt out, but like to spread it out every month, it's just like a fun little treat.
Yeah.
And
And there's been quite a few anthology horrors,
uh-huh.
like Ice Cream Man, that kind of thing,
Yeah.
which are great. And but I like this one too because you get two stories in one. So it's really just like the most condensed version
Yeah.
of the scariness. It's kind of like a joke. It's a setup and a punchline
Yeah.
for twice in an issue. And I read the first volume. I loved it. And yes, it is. shocking. You don't see where stories are going. You'll see things that you didn't imagine you would see.
There are so many stories, and this newest issue was one where I literally say it out loud, I'm like, I can't believe that they did that. Like,
Yeah.
I can't believe they showed that or hinted at that or whatever. This last one, especially because there was a kid involved. Like, I was like, I can't believe
Yeah.
that this is it, but it's still super entertaining.
And props to Mark Miller for having a big year, big comeback of a lot of the previous properties. We both definitely like Nightclub a
Mhm.
lot. That was a really cool kind of spin on the superhero genre
Yeah,
and the vampire genre, which was really cool.
and every issue was $1.99,
Yes,
which was awesome.
props for that
Yeah.
because it shows like this can be done. Now, not I don't think everybody could pull that off.
Well, and he even said in an interview that he did it more as an experiment, and if he could do it over, he would increase the price to like 2.99 because I
Yeah.
think he ended up not making a lot of money or something. But it was cool that it was like that because it made me like it was a no brainer to get that.
Yeah.
Plus, it was good and the art was good too. But at $2, it's like, yeah, I'll buy any comic for $2.
Yeah, yeah. So fun experiment, and all that leading to Big Game, which was just bombastic, over the top,
Hmm.
really cool event book, but also kind of a time travel story. There was a lot of going on with there, but nice to go back to characters that we've been reading in just little series for 10, 20 years
Yeah,
at this
yeah, it was
point.
cool because I haven't read all the Miller World stuff, but I've read Wanted and Jupiter's Legacy and uh, well, shoot, I'm blanking, but a bunch of them.
Yeah,
And then this comes out, and it's like, oh, well, you know what? Those are actually all in the same universe, and they always have been. Like, what?
yeah,
I've never thought about that. I The ending was a little bit, it ended very easily. I think for as
yeah.
big of a scope as this thing had, the ending kind of whimpered out a little bit, but the journey
I feel like
was
the
very
book
good.
was the journey of seeing all these characters come
Yeah,
together, and it's almost didn't even matter what the overall story was.
yeah,
It was seeing the characters interact
yeah.
and kind of revisiting some of the characters. And I did like the kind of resolution to like the ambassador story
Right.
that came into there, and so I thought all of that was really fun.
Yeah.
And one that just got started. I think we only have 2 issues out, but this is Hack Slash Back to School, which I'm a big Hack Slash fan. It's been around for a long time. Tim Seeley's original character with Cassie Hack and Vlad. They're hunting different slashers. They've teamed up with everybody along the way, from Vampirella to who knows what. Even had a fun crossover where they hunted with like Super Patriot
Oh, right. Yeah.
and a lot of the classic Image characters. But this one, helmed and written and drawn by Zoe Thorogood, just showed the like versatility of the characters and got a lot of people on board with this property that was really good. It's very artistic. The series goes from like B horror to like a really cool indie horror title with this one. So I'm very excited to see the rest of this, and hopefully we get more kind of different people's interpretations on things. I think that's a cool, especially for an indie character. That usually indie characters are usually done by the creator,
Yeah.
and just that to see what if someone else takes this over and does their own spin on it.
Yeah. Now I haven't read this one yet, but I have read some other hack slash, and it's just so cool. It kind of goes the route of like what I call like the Hellboy method,
Yeah,
where there's not really these huge arcs. They're just like these various
yeah,
self-contained stories, and you can read pretty much any of them at any point in time. So I
yeah,
love that hack slash is that type of book where there's been I know there was a series, but there's been so many just random series
yeah.
hack slash at various stories and various settings, and
They go
I love.
from 1 issue to 5 issues
Yeah,
usually, and that's it. And you can skip them if you don't like
yeah,
this one, and jump onto the next
right.
one. And it's I don't know. I like stuff that has that format.
It's very a la carte, I guess. You can just pick, here's a whole bunch of different hack slash stories or a whole bunch of different Hellboy stories or whatever. Just pick whichever one's look good
Yeah,
to you and just read them, and you don't, and that's it. That's all you have to do.
yeah. I think that's really cool, especially for an indie title to be
Yeah,
able to do that. Okay, next up is a big one. Favorite Marvel comics of 2023. Starting with, I mean, these are no particular order, but
right.
this one we're very excited about.
Yeah, this one could be my number one. I had to think about it a little bit more, but it's this. When I read this, I mean, we like Spider Boy ever since he first
Yeah,
premiered. But when this book came out specifically, his own book dedicated to him. This was a fun comic book, which is
Yeah.
what I look for in when reading books. Like, could I give this to a kid and they enjoy it? And this one, I think you could. The story was just super fun. Spider Boy is fun. It wasn't this big universe shattering thing. It was just a fun little story about Spider Boy. The art was
Yeah.
good. He is a character that I like. We're learning more about him. There are still more things to learn, which keeps me on the hook. Like everything about Spider Boy, I love 100%.
Yeah, I really like it too because there's so often that you kind of long for that like young Peter Parker, and
Hmm.
occasionally we'll get stories that are set back when he was younger. Wasn't quite he hadn't been through his, the ringer with the Avengers or all these huge tragedies that happened to him. But then also you don't want to be like, let's DH Peter Parker again
Right.
or whatever. And this kind of I felt like brought like some of that like childlike, even though he was a teenager in the original Spider-Man, but just that like a little clumsy, a little goofy, uh, but pretty innocent and kind of go-getting attitude and that
Yeah.
kind of thing. Whereas Spider-Man now, like, I don't want him to go back to where he was because he's grown and matured and he has, pretty much a family depending on what version you have. But I like we got a new young version.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah. Like I like Peter being more adult. Like I'm excited for Ultimate Spider-Man because he's gonna have a family and everything. We have Miles if we want a younger Spider-Man, and then
He's grown up
yeah, even he's
some.
growing up. Yeah, and then we have like a sidekick age, like Spider-Man here. Plus, I love that he is every bit as similar to Spider-Man as he is different from
Yeah, he is
Spider-Man.
not just another got bitten by a radioactive
Yeah,
spider type thing. He has his own unique set of powers, which Miles did a little bit too with the
the Venom Blast.
venom blast, invisibility, and
Yeah.
everything. And I think that's when some of the alternate versions of Spider-Man work the best. Is when they're like they've got spider in their name, they're similar,
They can stick to
they can
walls.
stick to walls, they've got the base
They're
things, but
strong.
they're all a little bit different.
Mhm.
That's what makes Spider-Boy, I think, really strong.
Yeah, but I think the biggest thing for me is just Spider Boy is just fun.
Yeah,
It's just
it's a
fun.
it's
I
a
have a
fun
good time.
comic.
I literally smile when I read it. I laugh and oh, that's so cool. And he's jumping around. Like it's just a fun time reading it.
Yeah. And another one that I have a good time reading is Sensational She-Hulk. I put Sensational here because that did start this year. I think the
Mhm.
other run of She-Hulk started last
Yeah,
year.
it ended because this started in October, I believe. The other one ended like in August, I think, because
Yeah.
there was like a month or two gap. So it's been a good year of She-Hulk.
Right, yeah. So this encompasses the previous She-Hulk run and the new Sensational She-Hulk because they're basically the same book. But another, you'll see a trend in the books that we enjoy that's fun.
Yeah.
They're fun comics. Like we all love, like the Walking Dead type. This is 100 and something issue run of character building and character death and that kind of thing. But it's also fun to get these stories that are, She-Hulk is kind of that it's back to that like everyday life of a superhero
Hmm.
and the kind of weird stuff they run into. It kind of pokes fun at the kind of ideas of superheroes, but in
Yeah.
like respectful way. But with the Punch Club and everything, it's
Oh, that's
like,
great. Yeah.
well, we don't really have to like fight each other as hero and villain. Like if you just need to like let off some steam, let's start a club to do that
Yeah.
and everything. So She-Hulk has been great, and I've really enjoyed the character development with like Jack of Hearts and a lot of that. A lot of the supporting cast have been really good in this series.
Yeah, I love action in comics,
Yeah.
and I love seeing She-Hulk smash stuff. But She-Hulk is such a good character, and they've given her such an awesome world to live in that I enjoy just reading about her day-to-day
Yeah.
stuff. Oh, she's a lawyer, and she's taking on a difficult client, or she's meeting Patsy Walker for muffins or whatever. Like
Yeah.
I just enjoy following her throughout the day. Like I don't know that I would want that with every character, but
Yeah,
but
no.
she
There's
does.
certain characters have like the paths they can work down, like a Wolverine comic like this.
Yeah,
Not really. I want to see Wolverine way over the top
right.
and stuff. But, every comic is kind of looking at the Marvel universe through their own filter.
Yeah,
And I really like She-Hulk's filter for that
yeah.
character. And next up, I mean,
Yeah, Iron Man has probably been my favorite of the year so far. This run specifically, I love that the artwork's been great throughout the whole thing. I love how in the last few months it has worked so seamlessly with the X-Men stuff and the
yeah,
Fall of X stuff. Um, it's just
where you wouldn't even say that Emma Frost is like cameo. She's like, no, she's a
yeah.
supporting character in
Yeah,
this.
she it's like it reminds me of when Daredevil also had Black Widow in the
Yeah.
70s. It's kind of like that. But just I don't necessarily I don't love comics where the hero loses their powers basically or in Iron Man's case loses his fortune.
Which
Like
is his powers.
and Batman's going through the same thing and seemed like there was somebody else too. But but at the same time, it's like, well, how does he deal with that? How is he still getting all these armors and stuff? And this whole thing with Fei Long taking over Stark Enterprises, and now he's like Ocean's 11 trying to steal some Mysterium to build a new armor, which we just saw the first look at the other day. Like it's more fun action adventure comic books, and I don't know. I think everybody should be reading this one.
Yeah, it's interesting too because I of course like the story where there's a plan but it falls through and stuff. It's kind of cool in this. Iron Man is he's up against a very hard situation,
Yeah.
but he's actually succeeded in a lot
Hmm.
of it, and it's kind of fun to be like, oh yeah, like now okay, now we got a foothold in on Fei
Yeah.
Long, and what are we gonna do? And a lot of his plans are done on the fly, like him proposing to Emma Frost
Yeah.
and all of that. But it's done with that like, you know, Tony Stark flying by the seat of his pants and actually works out a lot of the
Yeah.
time. And that's really cool to see. Is it's not just Iron Man getting beaten down over and over and it's depressing. It's like he gets beat down, but he comes back each time in very interesting ways, like new armor
Yeah.
or, the kind of how him and Emma Frost interact and how they're both very intelligent
Right.
people and
The banter they have
yeah,
and
it's
that kind of thing.
great.
I think this may be my favorite run of Iron Man since at least maybe like the Extremis era.
Yeah,
There's something about it I dig it.
great art. It's got some great suits. This issue with Wonder Man, where we saw the Silver Centurion back
Oh
in that,
yeah, that was so
it's
good.
just
Oh.
really
Hmm.
fun. And
Daredevil, yeah.
this is your jam. So
Yeah,
you're
so
next.
this is my other maybe top favorite. Marvel's had some good stuff, but Daredevil. So I'm gonna say the end of Chip Zdarsky's
Yeah, yeah,
run, and then also this new run, this year of Daredevil. Chip Zdarsky's run, I've said it before, I'll say it again, is the best run of Daredevil there's ever been since Frank Miller.
yeah.
Obviously, Frank Miller is the
You'd
best.
have people coming for your head
Yeah,
if
no,
you didn't put
Frank
that
Miller is the best,
disclaimer.
but I think Chip Zdarsky is the number two guy on Daredevil, and that whole storyline with Elektra becoming Daredevil and leading the Red Fit or the Red Fist. Just everything about that was so good to the point where I was very nervous about this new run from Saladin Ahmed because I was like, I don't see how it can live up. But
Yeah,
so far, we're 4 or 5 issues in, and I am very pleasantly surprised with. I guess I shouldn't say surprised, but because Ahmed's a good writer, but I'm just happy that
yeah,
I guess maybe I was setting a low bar, and it has far exceeded
yeah.
everything that I have wanted in this series. The art's been good. It's a interesting new story with Daredevil being a priest.
Yeah, and it's not just like you had Zdarsky's, and then the next one comes along and tries to like keep all of those balls in the air.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's good that you came in and it's like, let's have a little time and then start this new Daredevil story that still respects what Zdarsky did, but he can go in his own direction too.
Yeah, it's just been more good superhero action adventure books, which is what I want. Yeah, I mean, there's not much more to say. Like, and it's hard to talk about because Zdarsky ran all the way through a lot of 2023. Now we're on, so it's two different runs, but just overall, every month that Daredevil has come out from whomever, it's been really, really good. Like, I
Yeah.
look forward to reading it. It's great.
And another one, this is the wild card that was thrown in
Yeah,
here.
wild card. So this Joe Fix It. It was only a 5 issue miniseries, but it was so much fun. Peter David back writing. Joe Fix It, Gray Hulk. Plus, this was also, in my opinion, the best Peter Parker Spider-Man book that there was been all year. And it wasn't just that he had a cameo in issue one. Like Spider-Man figured into this, and he was in every issue. He was part of the plot in every issue, and it was like a fun Spider-Man Joe Fixit team up book. Took place back when Hulk was Joe Fixit in Las Vegas. You know, when those stories were going on in the late '80s, early '90s. And like it was just more fun. Like Kingpin was part of it, seeing Hulk and Kingpin
Yeah,
fight. Like
two
I
giant.
would have never thought to see that. And the art was really good on this too. Spider-Man was, he was still when he was with Mary Jane, and he was quipping, and he was just like jumping around and shooting people with webs. Just everything about it felt super classic. It was just like really fun. I wish it had gone on longer, but Marvel just does a lot of these 5-issue miniseries.
I
But
was about to say, and this is a good representation of. I like that Marvel's been doing that of these like, hey, let's take a snapshot from this time frame with the character from whatever kind of a big run or
yeah,
a look they had that was really cool, and doing a story set in that. That's great because you can be like, well, that's not over.
yeah.
The one going on the Daredevil Black Armor
Oh, it's so good.
is going on right now. I mean, that is not included in any of these lists, but that's kind of the same idea of like, hey, let's like that really iconic thing. Let's go back to that. Not bring it. It's not like Daredevil's donning his black armor again.
Yeah.
It's going back to Joe Fixit. So we can tell more stories in those time frames.
Yeah, yeah. Daredevil Black Armor could have been on this, but they're only 2 issues in, so it's
Yeah.
sort of the timing didn't work out. But one of probably my favorite of those types of miniseries from
Yeah.
Marvel this year.
Okay, next up, favorite DC comics. Once again, that we can remember
Yeah,
off the top of our heads, because there was a lot.
yeah. Just list the almost everything that had a Donna DC banner on it.
Yeah.
Just put it on there.
So starting with, I put this one on here. This is not just specifically the 1 Minute War, but this was kind of the finishing out Jeremy Adams' run
Yeah.
on Flash. That was just phenomenal because it had mixed big storytelling, like we got the 1 Minute War, with fantastic one-shot stories like the Dad Daughter Dance that
Mm.
Wally takes his daughter to, which ends up getting, turns into a fight and everything, gets crashed by, I don't remember if it was aliens or what it was, but you had that. You had just really good family oriented stories. Wally West is such a like a family man of a character,
Yeah.
and to see, you've got his kids and them with their powers in
Yeah.
this. You got his wife where Iris was got her
She had super speed for a while because of the baby, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Just really, really fun Flash stories. The art was great. It was always really energetic,
Hmm.
which I love. Is bright and colorful Flash running all over the place. Yeah, I just thought his tenure on Flash was fantastic. And if you haven't read it, definitely go back and read the whole thing because yes, it does kind of have through lines through the entire thing, like his kids' powers and his new baby and all of that is a big deal. Got that one shot issue where it's his wife's writing.
I think that was the annual.
It was the
Yeah, that
annual.
was really good. Yeah.
Uh, where it's Linda, right? I keep
Yeah, Linda Park.
yeah, I keep getting Iris and
Iris and
Linda
Linda. Yeah.
because yeah, they're but her romance novel she
Yeah.
wrote, the whole issue was just a romance
Right.
novel, but with very familiar faces for characters was great. So definitely check out Jeremy Adams' Flash. It was so much fun.
And then finally, we got a Green Arrow series this year after not having one for a little while. Written by Joshua Williamson, who is just killing it on everything that he's touching right now. We're going to talk about him more in a little bit, but just it's cool. I remember when they announced it and they showed that one image, which is this cover, but the whole thing with the entire Green Arrow family, some of the villains and stuff like that. I was like, I'm just so excited. I was so excited to get it. Now that it's here, it's already gone from a 6-issue mini to a 12-issue
Yeah.
maxi to an ongoing, and which is good because there's still so much story left to tell. It's just nice having Green Arrow back and the Green Arrow family back. And the first 6 issues were him jumping through time, jumping through multiverse. What, did he go to different Earths, or was it just a time
I
travel
think
thing?
it's just time
Yeah, I think it was a time
travel.
travel thing too. Which that's not necessarily Green Arrow's thing. Green Arrow should be street level stuff, but Joshua Williamson didn't do the usual tropes of like the whole crux of the time travel thing was like there was a message from his future self that
Mhm.
said you have to stay away from your family or else the world's going to get destroyed or
Yeah,
whatever. And the usual thing would be for the hero to then be all broody and say, "Oh man, I've got to stay away. Black Canary, stay away. Roy, stay away." But in like one page, he's like, "Nah, I don't want to do that. I want to be
yeah,
with my family. We'll figure it out later." Like it's just like subverting expectations in a good way. It's just fun, more action adventure stuff. And then now with this new issue 7 that just came out this week, he's now back on his Earth, back in his own time, and now it's going to be finding Roy Harper, digging into what Amanda Waller's going to do. We're going to talk a little bit more about her later.
yeah.
And it's back to basics kind of for Green Arrow, and he's got his family with him, and
Yeah, and I like it too because I know Joshua Williamson mentioned because the issue number one cover, this one had a bunch of characters on
yeah,
it, and people were asking like, "Are we gonna see all of them?" And he's like, "If it gets to go longer than 6 issues, we're gonna start seeing other characters." And now we know
yeah,
it is going longer, so we're gonna start seeing
yeah.
some
We've
of
seen
those
some,
other,
yeah, we've seen some preview covers or painting or
yeah,
something.
Arrowette
Yeah,
and some of those
they're
that
there.
I can't wait to see. I think even like the Spectre's kind of seen in the background of that cover, or
I don't know
it's
if that was a Spectre or was it Hal Jordan's mask, because Parallax figured into the
yeah.
story, so that may have been that.
Yeah, but I am convinced every character that's green will appear.
Oh, sure,
So,
yeah.
but no, like there's you got Roy Harper's daughter. That's kind of a new character coming into this. Black Canary, fantastic
Hmm.
in this story. They're reuniting on the beach in the
That was
previous issue was fantastic.
that gave us what we wanted, right? Because we love seeing Clark and Lois together. We want Peter and Mary Jane to be together, and then that gave us, it wasn't like this strained, like, oh, she's over there, but I'm scared, I'm nervous, whatever, to go talk to her because it's been so. No, they just ran to each
Yeah,
other and embraced, and like that's.
yeah,
Comics really can be that simple. Just give us the good stuff, and we will take it, and it's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. Like, yeah, characters can be happy.
That's right. Yeah.
And speaking of green,
Yeah.
Green Lantern.
And speaking of Jeremy Adams,
Yeah,
yeah.
and this is a combination of the last
Right,
two,
yeah.
with Jeremy Adams coming on to Green Lantern, which is I feel like a little bit of a back to basics for Green Lantern,
Mhm.
or at least kind of a let's not simplify, but like, hey, let's focus on Hal Jordan. Let's focus on Carol Kilowog. I won't go too far there.
Right. And it's Sinestro.
Sinestro. It's kind of a very small cast of characters,
Yeah.
but it's like Green Lantern has, especially during the Jeff Johns run, which is like the best Green Lantern there's ever been, uh, but got so big.
Yeah.
You know, the roster and the colored lanterns, and the color spectrum coming into there, all of that is great. But every once in a while, it's fine to like be like, hey, but let's go back to the core of this
Mhm.
character. Like he's a fighter pilot, but he keeps wrecking planes. He works for Carol, and she loves him, but also is so frustrated by
Yeah,
him.
and he keeps like, trying to hit on her and pick her up, and she shoots him down at every turn. He's like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, yeah,
He doesn't
he's
pine for her, like,
yeah. And especially kind of, I guess, kind of capping off with this last issue with his fight with Sinestro. We saw a great like, hey, you want to know what Green Lantern's about? Read this, what 5 6 issues,
Yeah.
and you'll get like what is the like core of Green Lantern?
Yeah, that number 6, that is my favorite single issue of the year. We're not really talking about single issues, but we're talking about year end stuff. That's my favorite single issue of the entire year was Green Lantern number 6 because it was all one big action
Yeah,
movie against Sinestro. This run of Green Lantern, I think, is the best there's been since. Jeff Johns, Sinestro Corps War, Blackest Night, that
yeah,
whole era. I mean, there's been some other good stuff, but this is. I've always been a Hal Jordan guy anyway, and it's been so long since Hal Jordan has figured prominently in a
yeah,
book. He's popped up in like Dark Crisis and stuff, but it's good to have him back in the spotlight. I know that there's other people like other characters, Jessica Cruz and all, or yeah, Jessica Cruz.
Jessica Cruz and
She,
Simon
yeah,
Bass
they're
and
all great, but it's like it's been so long since Hal Jordan has been front and center. And it kind of goes, it speaks to this whole Dawn of DC initiative, where DC this whole year has been let's spotlight our classic characters
yeah.
again, and it's been wonderful.
Yeah, it's been overall we've been huge fans of Dawn of DC, and it's
Hmm.
because of that of like, hey, let's really like take each of our like central characters and give them the love and respect they
Yeah,
deserve.
and it has paid off in dividends for
Yeah.
that.
Speaking of,
Yeah. Oh,
uh, possibly I don't know. It's up there as my favorite book of the
of the
year
year.
and ongoing right now. And speaking of Dawn of DC, uh, Joshua Williamson on this book has done that exact same thing of being like, and this is, I mean, I was gonna say I think Green Arrow is a really hard character to write because he's kind of got the same like the Hawkeye problem. Like, well, what does he do? He just shoots arrows.
Yeah.
Superman has the opposite problem of what can't he do? He can do everything. So how do you do that? And Joshua Williamson's take on Superman, which is classic, which is just the biggest hearted character in comics. Like
Yeah.
no one is a better person than Superman, and that's a good thing. It's not like, oh, well, he's a pushover because he's too good or he's too strong. It's like, no, that is what makes him like the ideal hero, the one everyone, I forgot how they describe it, but it's like you people look up to him, but he also like looks up to everyone else type
Right.
thing. Like he's the best of what humanity can be, and that's been spotlighted in this story.
Yeah, and great sequence, and it was Action Comics, not Superman, but that sequence where he talked to the construction guy who was
Yeah,
eating his lunch, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't do anything." He's like, "Hey, chill out, man. I just wanted to eat lunch with my friends,"
yeah,
even though it was a guy that Superman had put away. Like that is Superman. That's what I want to see Superman be like. And then we've seen similar things like that in this book. Plus, the art's been great. It's been action packed. I love that the story arcs are like 3 issues,
yeah,
so you still get a full story, but it doesn't feel like it goes on for too long. They've been doing some really cool moments in here, like the fight where the villains damage Superman's hearing
yeah.
so
So
that he couldn't hear Lex get attacked.
yeah,
Like that was just super creative, I think. Lots of action, lots of
we've got
just
the
good
Parasite
moments.
story that kicked it off, which was great. We've got the Chain story that just wrapped up. But I think, great stories, great action, but at the core, the Superman is like the classic great person Superman
Yeah.
through all of these.
And plus, I've always been a Lois Lane fan. I don't
Yeah.
know that I've ever liked her more than this run or this era, this time period. She's
Especially since she's taken over Perry's job
yeah,
running and suddenly she starts acting like him.
yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, well this is just what the job does to you. Like
Yeah, like their interactions, Clark and Lois's interactions together. Again, another happy couple. It just feels
all
classic.
the
It feels
super core
right.
stuff is
Yeah,
really cool.
she she doesn't really worry about. She's this last issue. She was pretty worried about him, but a lot of times she doesn't really worry about him all that much. She's like, he's Superman. He'll be back.
Yeah.
Or she might be worried, but it's like I am worried, but I've got a job to do too,
Yeah.
and I've got to focus on that. He will come back. I just love that characterization. It's awesome.
And the interaction between Superman and Lex has been really good in
Yes.
this. It's been like it's the Superman who wants to forgive everybody, but Lex has done stuff so many times that he's very hesitant to trust him. But then Lex, not exactly acting evil
Well, that's
and
yeah,
highly intelligent.
yeah, and I understand where Superman's coming from because I don't know either if Lex should be trusted or
Yeah,
not. He's acting totally fine, but just like Superman, there's a feeling, there's a gut feeling or a voice in the back of my head saying, "Oh no!" Like I'm just waiting for the other shoe to
yeah,
drop, and it may not happen. I have no idea, and that's what makes me want to keep coming back. Is this the issue where Lex is going to turn bad? I don't know if I really want him to, but at the same time, I don't. It feels weird if he's a good guy. Like I
yeah,
don't know, and I want to see what happens.
yeah. So all I have to say, Superman is great right now.
Hmm.
And Wonder Woman, which just got started,
Yeah,
really, this Tom King Wonder Woman. We're up to issue
four.
four,
Yeah,
which was a great highlight issue of what makes Wonder Woman so great.
Yeah, we've got this story with the U.S. government being, they're wanting to kick all the Amazons out of the country. Basically, Wonder Woman's not leaving, so then the military's going after her, and it's getting bigger and more intense and things like that. And I feel like that kind of story's been done a little bit before, but never with Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Like, what? Wonder Woman? What
Usually
in
it's
the
like
world?
Superman's an alien
Yeah.
and aliens are dangerous type thing.
Yeah,
But
and
this
obviously,
is
like, oh, the Gotham Police Department doesn't trust Batman because he's a vigilante. Okay, yeah, but like Wonder Woman, really?
yeah.
Who doesn't trust Wonder Woman? And especially this last issue, the back and forth between the government saying Wonder Woman is dangerous, she's got to be stopped, and then it cuts to her with a sick kid just making his day wonderful and being so kind and
Uh-huh.
everything, and then going back to she's dangerous and she's a threat, blah blah blah, and then I think it's super interesting. All this stuff with Trinity is really good.
Yeah.
I want to see. There's still so many questions about her. Are we going to get to find out her parents or I guess her? I'm not 100% convinced that
No,
Wonder Woman is
I
her
think there's more
mother.
than
Yeah,
that.
I'm not convinced that the in the first issue, the Amazon who killed all the guys in the bar. I'm not convinced that she did it.
Yeah.
I think there's something else going on there. Just a compelling story. Like I like Wonder Woman. I've never, just like Transformers, the Wonder Woman comics have never just really clicked with me.
Yeah.
Um, until this, like I look forward to every issue. It's one of my most anticipated reads every month.
Yep. And I feel like this one, I mean, we're in
Yeah,
what, issue 28 now?
yeah, no, 20, yeah, something
Something
like
like
that,
that.
20 something. Yeah, I wasn't sure if we should put this on there because it didn't start this year,
Yeah.
but it's been going consistently, and it's
Which I
it's
do feel like this book is uh
like the blueprint
the
of,
instigating act that has created the dawn of DC.
yeah,
Where, this is pretty much Silver Age Superman and Silver Age Batman, and still has high stakes and all that stuff, but still manages to be really fun. The just the tone of it and everything. And this was a book that went back to the kind of core of the
yeah.
characters that everything is kind of emulating now for the best. So yeah, this is almost like an honorable mention, but it's like, hey, let's not forget World's Finest and Mark Wade and Dan Mora, who have for one thing, like Dan Mora hasn't done every issue,
He's in almost
but
all of,
almost
yeah.
all of them, and that is a huge undertaking. Mark Wade on this book for so long. It's like, look, we can have a consistently like pretty long run of a book with not too unbroken of a creative team.
Yeah. Plus, Dan Moore is also doing Shazam, and I cannot think of another artist or writer in comics right now who are doing two monthly books.
Uh-huh.
Well, I guess I should say artists because there's plenty of writers
Yeah.
doing multiple. I can't think of another artist who was doing two monthly books, interiors at the same time, just cover
Yeah.
for a lot of other books.
So incredible. But we love Batman Superman, a World's Finest, and continue to do so for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to just put it on here because even though it's in issue 20 something, it's been running for 2 years. It's still every bit as good
Yeah.
as it was in the very beginning. So it's been another stellar year of World's Finest.
Yeah.
It hasn't slacked off or tapered off any.
Next up, we've got our favorite events and storylines. So this is not necessarily just big crossover events, big Crisis on Infinite Earths
Yeah,
level,
just good story.
or yeah, this is just stuff we've really enjoyed, storylines and kind of key things that we wanted to point out. Starting with Fall of X, which the whole Krakoa era has been going on a long time now. And I think some of it's been really good. Some of the stuff has been a little hard to follow, but it's because it is such a tapestry that Hickman created in the beginning that they've all been kind of woven into this thing. But on the start of Fallbacks, I guess with Hellfire Gala,
Right.
I think some of the best X-Men stories have come out of this.
Yeah.
The what's been going on with the just individual characters, with the teams. I guess it's because you kind of backed them into a corner and you see the best of them come out. But I think it's been really, really good.
Yeah, and I haven't been reading it, but you fill me in every week when we do our videos, and every time I'm like, wow, that actually sounds really
Yeah.
cool. And like we flip through the books, like, wow, that actually looks really cool. It looks like there's stakes, and it looks very heavy. But I'm interested in what's coming next.
Yeah.
Like it's
Just to the whole like this whole thing that they've created. This is going to be well known for a long time.
Hmm.
Just like, I don't know if there's been a era of X-Men that's been this long and this unified.
Hmm.
You've got Age of Apocalypse, you've got all this kind of thing, but this is kind of like one ginormous story.
Yeah, I mean, you could when this is all said and done. I mean, you could tell somebody read the Krakoan era that starts in 2019, and that whole era lasts for 4 or 5 years, and it's
Yeah.
you've got a 5 year span of X books
Yeah.
that is kind of I don't want to say self-contained, but there's a start and there's a middle and there's an end
Yeah.
to this big era of stories.
And next up, Night Terror,
Yeah.
which was, I feel like, I don't want to say a surprise hit, but it was a very odd choice to release a horror themed story in the summer.
Yeah, 2 months before
2 months
Halloween.
before
Yeah.
Halloween, we were kind of like, is this just a it's just like a filler story. What is it going to be? But this out to be one of the most successful crossover events that DC's had in a while, at least for our store. I feel like people sampled it.
Uh-huh.
They tried one or two, and then by the end of it, we had so many people who were all in, just
Yeah.
like give me all of them. And I feel like it delivered across the board pretty
Yeah.
much.
I love the structure of it. It's not your typical structure like, you think of something like King in Black or War of the Realms, and there's a main story and there's a bazillion tie-ins. The structure of this was there was the main story, there was a whole bunch of two-issue tie-ins, and you could literally, again, it was a la carte. You could pick and choose which one of those you wanted. We read most of all of that. I think we read all except for maybe like I think we missed the second issue of Black Adam or something
Yeah,
like that. But some were not super great. Some were really good. But they were just little extra supplements. And if you didn't read any of those and you just stuck to the main story, you still got the full story.
yeah,
And the main story, the heroes of the main story were Deadman and Sandman.
yeah,
Like what? It wasn't Batman. It wasn't Superman. It
yeah.
wasn't, like what? When does that happen in DC in the last forever? Just the structure. I like that they did pause every other book so that if you weren't into it,
Yeah.
you didn't have to have your story interrupted. You could just stop buying the books and then jump back on if you chose to
And
do
you didn't have
that.
to double up either. You didn't have
Right.
Batman and then Batman Night Terrors. That
Yeah.
it was nothing for your wallet really changed.
Yeah, and it felt, I did like it, but I didn't feel like it was too long. And when it was over and we got back to the regular books, it did feel nice. I was like, oh, okay, that was a fun event, but I'm
Yeah,
glad that we're back on the regular schedule now. Like it didn't wear out its welcome. Like it was and just a really cool story, like a really
yeah,
cool like horror story
yeah.
that will make a really good omnibus if they ever do.
And props to like the Green Lantern story in that, which was so
Oh, that was one of the
good.
best ones. Yeah.
There was a few key standout, really really
Oh my
good
gosh,
stories.
Zatanna and Robot Man, Hex and
Yeah,
Violence, like give me more of that.
yeah,
Like, oh my gosh, there was something cool like pairings. The Wonder Woman miniseries was more of a Justice League Dark
yeah.
series. Like it was just all kinds of cool stuff. Ravager, yeah.
Yeah. And I guess kind of a big surprise this year was the return of the Ultimate Universe. Did we even know about this last year?
I don't think so.
I think this kind of has all come to fruition, and it's still in the process. We are just on the edges of what
Oh,
the
we're
new
yeah, we're barely
Ultimate.
getting started. Yeah.
Yeah, we've only had this kind of introduction. So we had Ultimate Invasion, which was a mini series, and we've had uh Ultimate Comics. What was the one shot called? Ultimate Universe.
I think it was Ultimate Universe.
Ultimate, but just those kind of lumped together as like kind of event, but mostly a storyline
Yeah.
that we are just getting into, and we really don't know much about even what the new Ultimate Universe will look like because we've mostly just been seeing the kind of the creation of it or the what it looks like from a big scale,
Yeah.
from the kind of the big orchestrating characters like the Maker and all of that. But when we get to Spider-Man, it's gonna be interesting to see what is the day-to-day life in this version of
Right.
the world.
Yeah, it was a little confusing reading it because I didn't know where it was going. Like,
Yeah,
but now that all five of the issues have been out, well, there's the four issues and then the one,
yeah,
which really should have just been five. But now looking back, it's like, okay, that served to introduce us to this new world. Now we're gonna see what happens from there. So now that I know that, it makes more
yeah.
sense. But yeah, just new Ultimate stuff, a new new line of Marvel books that are different from what you expected them. Should be good.
Yeah, exciting. And another one that's hard to believe this was this year,
Yeah, early this year, right?
early this
Yeah.
year, Lazarus Planet, which was the kickoff to Dawn of DC, wasn't it?
Yeah, right before, yeah.
Yeah. So just another really good event that used a lot of not the main characters. You
Hmm.
basically had Batman who was out of commission for the
Yeah.
entire thing, and you had the other characters that were, not quite there. So you did have these characters like Power Girl playing a big thing, Monkey Prince, Dreamer. You had a bunch of really cool characters that kind of got to step up and take the forefront.
Yeah, and the some of the things that happen in this are still happening now,
Yeah.
like Power Girl with her like new
Yeah.
telepathy or whatever it is, like she still has that. It changed John
I was about to
Kent.
say John Kent. We just saw
Just
that.
saw him this week. Yeah, we saw how he was changed in this. We just saw more of it
Yep.
this week, so it's still playing into the main stories.
Yeah. And another one that we're right smack dab in the middle of is Beast World, which I've really enjoyed so far. And this is, I feel like a lot of these events have been leading up to this, which is the Titans taking over as the premier team in the DC universe, which is awesome. Much deserved.
Hmm.
We always talk about, I mean, for years I've been like, you know, I I want to see characters grow and
Yeah,
change and everything. And this is doing that with being like, hey, these characters have earned this new position that they have as the leaders that, Batman has trained Nightwing to be, or
right.
Donna Troy, Wally West, even Beast Boy, who, so many of them were like, oh, these are the kids. They're older now,
Yeah,
and they've been through just as much as the main heroes, but maybe are a little bit more well adjusted.
yeah.
They've got to look at the Justice League and say, here's what we like about what they do, and here's what we want to do different as this new generation.
Yeah. Plus, it's been action packed. We talked about the structure of Night Terrors. The way this is structured is really good too. Your main story, and then 4 or 5 just different one-shot tie-ins, and that's it. It's not a big crisis level event, so if you don't want to read any Beast World, you still got plenty of other
Yeah,
decent books to read over here. But it is something big that's taking place over here. It's not bleeding into anything else. The artwork has been
Ivan Rice
great.
on art
Oh
for
man,
the first few
for the first
issues.
two, I think he's on the last two as
Yeah,
well, I believe. Some great moments like Batman putting out an idea for a plan, but then Beast Boy said, "I actually have a different plan." Nightwing says, "I like his plan," and
yeah,
Batman says, "All right, I trust Nightwing. Whatever he
yeah,
says." Like you said, he earned that, right? So there's been
yeah,
so many cool moments, and we're learning more about maybe they're not all just random acts of violence from these
yeah,
beasts. Maybe there's something more. Amanda Waller's in the background doing weird stuff. Like there's
yeah.
a lot to love about it.
Yeah, she's looming over that story and this show because we're going to be talking
Yeah,
more about her
yeah,
later. We've got most exciting comic moments of 2023. These are specific ones from inside the issues that we are like, whoa, this is awesome, or surprises, that kind of thing. Starting with Jetfire. This
yeah.
is kind of the big thing of Void Rivals was the final reveal of what Void Rivals is, and what a way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, so Robert Kirkman had a retailer call with a bunch of retailers to tell them what the big secret of Void Rivals was. So we knew about it earlier. But still, when we found out, we're like, oh, this is really cool.
Yeah,
But if I hadn't known that, and if I had turned that page and saw this, my eyes would have popped out of my sockets, right?
yeah.
Like that's huge. And he was only in it for like a page.
I kind of like that. It wasn't like, now this is a Transformers
Yeah.
book. It was like, no, he flies away
Yeah.
almost immediately.
Yeah. Yeah, I was
But that
like,
was like that that got people pumped.
uh-huh. Yeah, I would have been like, he flew away. I'm like, wait, 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 where's he going? And what does this mean now?
Yeah.
And obviously we're getting some great books out of
Next up, I have
it.
when Superman fought Godzilla and they both special beamed each other.
Yeah,
I just thought this was super cool. It kind of this was the moment like you say you're doing Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong. It's like cool, but this is the moment. It's like because we can do
yeah,
this kind of thing. This kind of just stands for this whole series that's actually been really really good. I mean, this could have been a mini series that was just like a throwaway,
yeah,
just kind of cash grab thing. But no, this is actually a really good story, and using pretty much the entire DC
Oh
universe.
yeah, there's so many characters. There was a character that popped up in the newest issue that we haven't seen in a while. I was like, what are they doing there?
Yeah,
That's weird. But yeah, this right here, I mean, this was from number two. The first one didn't have a whole lot of giant monsters, but the second one gave us only giant monster fights
yeah,
with the Justice League. And the minute this was announced, and they showed the imagery of like Godzilla with a little Superman flying
yeah,
up to him, I was like, that I want to see that
yeah.
fight. And that's what we got right here was a big old fight, and it was really good.
Okay,
Oh
and now
yeah.
this is a big one.
Uh-huh.
This is what I kind of called the return of the DC Golden Age, because we've got these three titles which are not over yet. I think they each have one or two issues left.
They're all on issue 3, right?
Three, I think, and I
Yeah.
think they're 5 issue
Are they 5? Oh,
miniseries.
yeah, 5 or 6, yeah.
Yeah, but just fantastic to see that these characters are once again given the love and respect that they deserve.
Mhm.
These were the original superheroes, and each of these series by themselves have been incredibly fun. And I can't wait to see what happens with all of the Golden Age characters.
Yeah, I want when these are first, I don't want these to end. I
Yeah.
want these to be ongoings, but when they do end, I would love either for another batch featuring other JSA characters, or maybe this leads into some kind of new JSA book. I know there's the Justice Society book out right now. But maybe when that's over, like I love these versions of these characters. The first, like Alan Scott and Sandman are in the 40s,
Uh-huh.
but Jay Garrick is taking place in current day. So I would love to see. I would have just loved it for this to roll off into a 1940s JSA book
Yeah.
with these specific versions of the characters. It's just more of DC, like you said, just hey, we're gonna focus on our classic characters from all across. We took some eggs out of the Batman basket.
We
We
distribute them.
Yeah, we put a lot of the eggs into the Superman basket, which has been great, but we also put some other eggs into some other baskets that have been empty for a long
Yeah.
time. And all three of these books are I love them. Like I love every time there's a new issue.
Yeah. So very excited for all the Golden Age stuff, and we know there's going to be more. It's got its own like little symbol over on the side for the
Yeah.
Golden Age. Justice Society we know is a mini series that's going to be wrapping up, and so this is just kind of also just the beginning of some really good stuff.
Hmm.
And next up is Kamala Khan becoming a mutant. This was a thing that we kind of suspected because we found out about the death of Miss
Yeah.
Marvel that happened in Spider-Man. There's a lot of weird stuff going on of why did this happen here, why all this, but all of it to come out with Miss Marvel, the New Mutant, which was a great series, super fun, written by Aman Vellani and the art by Carlos Gomez. And I really like this new status quo for Miss Marvel because once again, this is a character that's been allowed to grow and
Uh-huh.
change and adapt and kind of come into her own as she started as kind of a super Captain Marvel fangirl
Yeah.
and is now like her own hero that others look up to.
Yeah, she's just had great character development ever since she's been since she premiered however many years ago that was. Like you said, she started as a Captain Marvel fangirl, but she was a great leader of the champions.
Yeah,
That run was phenomenal. And she's fun. Her being a mutant, I think, is great. I don't want her to lose her embiggen powers. I hope
yeah,
that stays. So that's still a little bit of an unknown. But just how she's been able to grow and it is. I do miss seeing her with the champions though. Like we're seeing her more with the X Men now, which is great. But I do miss her with Miles, and I
yeah,
miss her with Nova and uh, Hulk, Braun or Hulk, Amadeus Cho,
yeah.
and Ironheart and Vision. Those guys. Maybe they'll come back at some point. But
What I do like about her in the X Men is she's almost playing the role of Kitty
Kitty
Pryde's
Pride,
first appearance, where it's like it's a fresh face coming to the X-Men who kind of points out like, hey, this is the old way of doing things.
yeah,
Here's maybe a new way of doing things that might be better and stuff. And I really like because a lot of our young X-Men have now aged quite a
yeah.
bit. She's Kate Pride now, and she is completely worthy of being the leader of the X-Men.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean,
Bobby Drake is an adult
yeah,
now.
they all are like, yeah. Kitty Pride has had a lot of great She's probably one of the most well-developed characters, probably in all of Marvel. Thinking about
Yeah,
how she started versus where she is now, and I could see Kamala following that same path.
yeah, yeah. So just props to Miss Marvel, and we know we're getting a follow up
Yeah, there's
miniseries
another one coming. Mhm.
that I'm very excited. Written by Iman Fulani. So just
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the other writer. She's not writing it
yeah,
by
it's not
herself.
it's the one of the people who works on the show too.
Yeah, but Amon Villani has proven herself as a great writer too because she
Yes.
knows this character. She's also just a fan
Yeah.
of not only this character but of the comics of comics in general. So she's like I would love for her just to continue writing Miss Marvel for a really
Yeah.
long time.
Man, this is your moment that you talked about earlier.
Yeah, so I just had to put this on here. Green Lantern versus Sinestro from Green Lantern #6, my favorite single issue of the entire year. Because, like I said, this issue, the entire issue, except for maybe the first page and the last page, was nothing but this: Hal Jordan versus Sinestro, construct versus construct, each one bigger than the last. They're trying to one up each other until it turns into a big battle from Pacific Rim where Hal Jordan's in a big mech and Sinestro is a big, like, dinosaur or a big like kaiju looking creature. And it just I don't know. I mean, there's not a whole lot to say about it because it was just one big fight, but it was just so action packed. Again, you could hand it to a kid and they would say, "Whoa, this is really cool." Even though I don't know anything about these characters, but this looks awesome. I want to know more.
I like the escalation of this
Yeah,
book. Like,
right. Yeah, it was just a. I mean, we haven't seen Hal Jordan versus Sinestro since maybe the first few issues of maybe Rebirth in
yeah,
2016. So it's been a long time coming. Sinestro's got Red Lantern energy. What does that mean? What's that going to look like? It was just awesome.
next up is the specifically the fight of Optimus Prime versus Skywarp, which was in the last
Transformers
issue.
#3.
Yeah, which was, I mean, this is more to say props to Daniel Warren Johnson, who is writing and drawing Transformers, and has some of the coolest fight scenes. This is not just punch and then punch back and stuff. For some reason, the Transformers have gone to wrestling school. They
Right.
know these crazy
Uh huh.
moves. So we've had, it began um, with Optimus Prime like giving a suplex to Starscream
Right.
in like the first or second issue or whatever it was, and then this fight, which was another one that escalated, got to the point where uh, Optimus Prime's arm got like pretty much like severed where he couldn't use it.
Well, he got hit with a rocket launcher because the humans they're shooting at all the Transformers. His arm got super damaged.
And
He
so he ripped.
rips it off and beats him with it.
It's just incredible. It was so over the top, and not like you never thought you'd see Optimus do that, but he did it in a two-page
A
spread.
two-page spread of nothing but Optimus pulling his arm off.
Plus, I think this issue we also got him in truck mode, like plowing
Yeah,
into another
that's how the
transform.
fight started. He went off a jump and hit Skywarp square in the
Yeah,
in the belly in truck mode.
yeah, just fantastic. Also, I could call out all the moments that Daniel Warren Johnson draws the Transformers mid
Mid
transformation.
transformation. Yeah.
Incredible. You can tell he's got the toy there, being like, okay, so Optimus's
Yeah.
arms fold back, so that
Yeah.
reveals
So they go
this.
like this and his head's halfway back
Yeah,
and
and
yeah.
so I feel like we've seen some people do that, but the energy he puts in there is never lost. Just fantastic, Daniel Warren Johnson. But I feel like it was punctuated by this fight scene in this issue, which was most of the issue. Was
Yeah, it was
this?
it was at least half, yeah, for sure. And of course, you got your trademark Daniel Warren Johnson big sound effects.
Yes.
Boom and crawn.
Yeah, all the sound effects when his truck hits him is just like full
You can
page.
feel the impact.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Now, next we've got best of the best of 2023. These are just pretty much our favorites. What we've
Mhm.
we've we've chosen for our personal favorites. You may have a differing opinion. Let us know in the comments what your best of the best is. And once again, we're probably missing out stuff. We couldn't list everything, so these are just some of the ones we've already talked about.
Yeah.
But starting with Superman, it continues to be amazing. In my top really three favorite books coming out right now. This is the most recent issue
Mhm.
of Superman. And I just can't wait to see where this goes next.
Yeah, it's firing on all cylinders right now. There was a I think I when number 8 came out, I think I forgot to read it for a week.
Uh-huh.
And then I remember I was like, how did I possibly forget to read Superman? And then it was like a nice surprise. Like when you find money in your pocket, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I get a new Superman comic, and that's a nice surprise. And it's always a joy to read this. Like it's always one of the ones I read
I
first.
can't wait for the next story arc, the cowboy story arc
Yeah.
with Bruno Redondo on art. We saw a hint of that in this
Yeah.
issue, which was so cool. And then, of course, next up, Green Lantern.
Yeah, Green Lantern. Just well, I mean, we said enough about it already. Just action pack. How the focus on Hal Jordan again. Figuring out what Sinestro's doing. There's still some mystery. He's got that new ring that's quite the same as his other one. So what's the deal with that? He's stuck on Earth. I've always liked Green Lantern on Earth, even though he's a space cop. But it's cool
Yeah.
to see him on Earth doing stuff. It's so good.
And Daredevil, and I feel like this is one of the ones that's like, uh, it began so good that it's like, props to you for like keeping the Daredevil ball in the
Yeah,
air,
keeping the
and
momentum
yeah,
going, and it's just been Daredevil's my second favorite, Marvel hero, and for him to have had such a great, but I can't think of any really Daredevil runs that have been bad before or after since Frank Miller, right?
yeah,
So he's just had run after run after run of great books. Um,
very underrated too.
yeah, and this is just it just continues, it just keeps going.
And of course, like we just talked about, Transformers continues to be great. I can't wait to see what's next because we haven't got proper like all these characters versus all these
That's
characters. We're
right.
still dealing with a very small cast. And other than skirmishes, we haven't seen really big fights. We don't even know what the first big storyline is because
Yeah,
they're still trying to just establish
Yeah, they're
themselves.
just they're just like still getting used to their surroundings on Earth. Like you said, we know who the main lineup of Autobots are going to be and who the Decepticons are, and we still haven't seen all of them
Yeah.
yet. There's the question of we know they're tied into GI Joe. We want to see more of that.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, where is their story going? And I don't mean that in a bad way. But yeah, there's not really a big objective yet. They're just getting used to life on Earth.
Yeah. And one that we don't have on here, but of course, Spider Boy.
Mm,
It's also just got started, and we've talked about it to the nth degree. So
yeah.
that's just another one that is up there as well. Now, here's a big one. This is most anticipated comics of 2024. Of course, we don't know everything coming out next
Oh
year,
yeah.
but here's some things that we are already know about and are excited about, and pondering all of that. And we're gonna start with the Superman Superstars, which is kind of a new initiative for Action Comics. Where what are they? 3 issue?
Yeah, 3 issue story arcs, and their tagline is in the advertisements for the recent DC books. It says like the biggest action, the biggest creators, that kind of thing. And this first arc is Jason Aaron and John Timms, whose work I love from both of them. We've seen some preview pages of this issue 1061, and it looks phenomenal. There's no backup stories, which I don't know how you feel about backup stories, but I feel like I kind of like that there's not, because I feel like it's like let's just really focus on
Yeah.
Superman. So yeah, they're just continue. I guess what it is for me is they're continuing their focus on Superman.
Yeah.
They're not going to let it, okay, we've had it, Dawn of DC has been around for a year. Now we can let it slack off and go back to Batman or whatever. They are still focusing on Superman, and I suspect it'll be great.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see what all creators come on board. I like,
Yeah.
we talked about the other one, the 3 issue storyline thing. I think is really good.
Mhm.
It's, we've had epic long runs of things, but the 3 issue is, set up, middle, end. It's a three story arc structure
Yeah.
that I think is really, really good. And it does have through lines that go
Mhm.
through everything, but I'm very excited about this, and this starts very, very soon.
Oh yeah, like a couple 2 3 weeks from now, I
Right.
think.
And of course, Cobra Commander, it's just kind of, following Void Rivals, Transformers, Duke, and now Cobra Commander. And, I'm more excited about Cobra Commander. I was excited about it before, but after reading Duke #1, now I'm
Yeah,
like,
oh
oh,
yeah.
now I can't wait for Cobra
Yeah.
Commander. That. just the tone. I heard Joshua Williamson talk about this, that like he's like, once I started digging into it, it's like, oh, this is a horror story.
And he's so good at horror. Yeah.
Yes, and we're gonna see like kind of the uh, Cobra Commander Year One type
Yeah.
thing. He's still, you don't see his face. He's still in the shadows, but he is scary and brutal. And I can't wait to see kind of the how he's going to create Cobra or take over Cobra. However, the organization exists at this point. I can't
Yeah.
wait to see.
Yeah, I'm not sure, Duke just made me so excited um to see how all of it forms because GI Joe doesn't really exist yet, and yeah, we don't know about Cobra. We got a little bit of a peek into another GI Joe villain in Duke #1. So I just love this is so early on. Like it's just a great restart.
Yeah. And X-Men, this is from the ashes, but this is kind of the uh, Brever is taking over
Yeah.
editorial
Hmm.
of X-Men, and as much fun as the Krakoan era has been, I'm very excited to see what the next era of X-Men is going to be. I feel like, just speculation, it's going to be a little bit more back to basics. I think we're going to get some, there may be some shakeups and team members and all that, but I think we're going to go down to maybe some smaller scale storytelling. There's going to be a lot of aftermath from the Krakoan era because, I mean, the mutants are not the most favorable people in the Marvel universe right now. But I'm excited to see, what's this new era going to be? Are we going to get a new school? Are we going to,
Hmm.
because, it's been a long time since like New Mutants have like been trained and brought
Yeah.
up and taught and everything. We saw a little hint of something in the
The
Timeless
Timeless. Yeah.
issue, that we saw some silhouettes that were somewhat familiar, somewhat not familiar. We don't know what that's going to mean, but I think it's part of uh, this new age of X-Men coming forward.
Yeah, and I feel like, we are a few years away from like X-Men in the MCU is going to be a big thing that's coming.
Yeah.
And I feel like they are starting to um I feel like this is their effort to start to get the comics to fit that as
Yeah,
well.
the beginning of a synchronization of the two.
Yeah, because but just seeing that logo, that's classic '90s X-Men.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just '90s, but when I see that, I think '80s and '90s X-Men,
Yeah.
and to think that we might be going back to that, which is really cool.
Yeah, and we do know that Beast from that time period is
Yeah.
going to be making an appearance, and I wonder if that's going to be maybe a little hint at what's to come.
Hmm.
And I have this one listed as whatever Amanda Waller has
I
planned.
love that note. Whatever Amanda Waller has planned, because we don't know, but it's something and it's
Yeah,
interesting.
and we talked about it before, not even on the show, but like it's going to be a thing that when we figure out what it is, we're going to see all the pieces that have come together.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this should have been obvious, but she's popped up in so many different little books and has played her cards very close to the chest so much that it's like, well, why are you here doing this and why are you over here doing this? But you can tell they're all part of a bigger plan.
Yeah, she's been, this whole Dawn of DC thing has been great, but she has been looming in the background doing something. She was hanging out on Earth 3 for a while with the crime syndicate, I think,
Yeah,
and I don't quite remember what the resolution was to that, but she's been there, and now she is starting very slowly and methodically starting to make her move
yeah,
after not being in the limelight for a while, and we see she's getting some powers, not like superpowers, but like governmental powers
yeah,
that are going to give her all kinds of control over all kinds of
yeah.
things. And somebody like Amanda Waller with that kind of power is very scary.
Yeah, we've seen her in some of the Superman titles. We've seen her in
Like Green Arrow.
Green Arrow, Beast World. So yeah, it's gonna be very interesting. This is the cover to the Suicide Squad Dream Team, which we just saw like why Dreamer's on that team.
Yeah.
Is because basically Amanda Waller like threatens her. Is like basically you're gonna be on this team or else
Hmm.
horrible things are gonna happen. So I'm very excited to see what that all entails coming up. And Ghost Machine. So this is, of course, the new company, basically, or the new imprint of Image
Yep.
Comics, led by Jeff Johns, but with some of the biggest talent from the past like 20 years of people he's worked with. and just big names in the industry all going. Uh, a lot of them signing exclusive contracts
Yeah.
for new characters and properties over at Ghost Machine.
Yeah, this will be cool because it's Ghost Machine is the imprint, but not everything is taking place in the same
Right.
universe. So you've got Jeff Johns, the Unnamed with Geiger and Redcoat, Junkyard Joe, and some others. They're all together. But then you've got Jason Fabok and his own thing with Rook, which is not part of that, but
Yeah.
is its own thing, but still under Ghost Machine. Just like some just big time creators, Gary Frank.
Gary
Just
Frank, Francis Maniple,
yeah,
Peter Tomasi,
yeah, some big creators
Ivory
doing
Mize.
doing some new books, and I can't wait to see what it all is.
Yeah, it's nice too because it's like, well, I really like Geiger, and I like Junkyard Joe, and those were like kind of on the outside of this. Now we're going to be going into like, okay, now here's a whole universe of stories like
Yeah,
these.
because it was either in the I think it was maybe it was Geiger and Junkyard Joe both. There was like a timeline of that world, and there was a whole bunch of points on that timeline that referenced things that we still haven't seen. So
Yeah,
I want to see all of that stuff get fleshed out because it's a really cool world that they have set up. So and Rook too. I just love Jason Fabok. So anything that he's doing, if he's going to be doing the art, I'm on board.
yeah. So, and that's another one that is coming up very soon. We've already placed our orders for this Ghost Machine one shot, but we're going to be seeing a lot more of these characters and titles through next year.
Mhm.
And as we talked about earlier with Ultimate Invasion, the new Ultimate Universe. These are the three titles we know as of now, which is Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate Black Panther, and Ultimate X-Men.
I think there's an
That
Ultimate Universe one too.
yeah, that's is it an ongoing or a mini?
I don't
I'm not
know.
sure.
I don't know.
That one's the furthest out
You're right, right,
though.
right. Yeah.
Uh, but once again, they're familiar yet different. Spider-Man, Peter Parker's going to be kind of in his 30s
Yeah.
when he gets his powers. He's already has a family. It's all
He's
established.
married to Mary Jane with two kids in his 30s before he gets his powers. Like
Yes.
what that's so far different from any Spider-Man we've ever gotten. I really want to see what that looks like.
And then Black Panther seems to have we've seen on some covers Storm is
Uh-huh.
maybe from Wakanda or
Yeah,
has
maybe
some
like
ties.
Storm and Killmonger I think are together. There's
Yeah.
also a Moon Knight connection.
Yeah, that was the other thing I was going to
What?
mention is like a weird Moon Knight connection
Yeah.
right from the start.
Uh-huh.
Like that's what issue one talks about is that Khonshu and Ra or something like that are coming together. I like the new Black Panther suit that
Uh-huh.
has the mouth cut out of it. I think that's really cool. And then probably the weirdest of any of these is the new Ultimate X-Men by Peach Momoko doing the writing and the art. That looks like it's going to be focused on armor. Uh, I don't know anything about this. I don't know how this is going to be X-Men. I don't know if there's going to be a school involved. I don't know if there's a Professor X involved.
I don't know. I wonder if it's maybe Armor is like is in the Kitty Pride role
Yeah,
where and she go maybe the X-Men are already established and she goes to them and we meet them through her.
yeah,
Maybe we follow her on this journey and that's how I don't know. But that's all speculation. There has been zero information about this book.
yeah. Zero information, and though I think the other interesting thing is the previous Ultimate Universe. We kind of when it started was kind of from scratch. There wasn't really any heroes at that point,
Right.
except for like Captain America, who'd been around everything. But we saw kind of the first appearances of Thor and that universe's version of characters. This feels like we're kind of jumping in the middle
Uh-huh.
of a established universe that's been around for a little while. So that'll be really cool to dive in and then figure our way out of
Yeah.
it. And the Spectacular Spider-Man, this is just super fun.
Yeah, this seems like so much fun. Peter Parker and Miles Morales in a team up book. I believe it's an ongoing. Because we've seen them, they team up a lot, right? In all the Spider Verse stuff and all the Spider Geddon stuff. But when's the last time we got a meaty team up with them of just doing like street level stuff, which I think this is what this is. Like it's just fun because
Yeah.
I like them both so much, and their individual books are great, but I like when they're together too.
And the art is going to be by Humberto
Yeah.
Ramos, who, when I started reading Spider-Man on a regular basis, was the artist with Spider Island, but the whole Dan Slott with Big Time and all of that. So to me, like this just feels like home.
Yeah.
Checking this out.
And if they can work Spider Boy into this too, like that would be super cool. But yeah, it's,
I'm trying to get to Spider Verse level.
right. No, that's like cut it off there. But yeah, I mean, we had the two different Spider Men miniseries, which was really cool seeing them together. And then now we're getting an ongoing of it, which I don't think it's a multiverse thing, though. But
No.
just I don't know. And this is going to do. I think this said something about moving Miles out of the mentee role. Like
Yeah.
he's, Spider Man's been his mentor for a long time, but now he doesn't really need that anymore. So moving him out of that
Once
role.
again, another kind of the character growing
Yeah.
and especially I even think of like the Spider-Man 2 game. It's like Miles and him are equals.
Yeah.
Like they both have their specific tasks they do. Peter does a little bit more of like the science and that kind of thing. Miles has got uh his own villains. He's
Mhm.
dealing more with like Prowler and he takes on the Mysterio stuff and that. I want to see that, but in comic form of these equals.
Yeah, they were in the game, they were partners.
Yeah,
Like, hey, Peter be like, hey, I'm busy doing this, Miles, I need you over there. Or Mary Jane, hey, Peter's acting weird, Miles, I need you. Like, they were partners.
yeah,
And I hope that this book is like that. I think it will be.
yeah. Well, that is it for our Infinity Flux 2023 Comics End of the Year review show. Like we said, we didn't cover everything. We didn't. There was so many books that came out this year. No telling how many of them we actually read because
We read a lot.
we read a lot. And there's stuff from earlier in the year that I'm sure we've forgotten about was also great. I don't remember if it was Stray this year. Was that last year? Um,
Stray,
the book about the dogs.
stray dogs?
Stray dogs.
I think it was
Stray
last
the
year.
game was last year too, I think. But
Yeah.
anyways, there was a lot of early or books that ended. Twig was this year, right?
Was it this year? Oh gosh, it seems like last
I
year, but I don't
I think it
remember.
might have crossed over. I don't
Yeah.
know. You can all correct me in the comments and say no. Actually, every book you just talked about was last year,
Right, yeah.
which that shows you where my brain's at. But I just thought this would be really fun to go and kind of look back at the year. We spend week after week talking about these books, kind of like the day they come out and the day before they come out, that kind of thing. But it's great to like give a retrospective, be like, look at all this stuff that came out, look at all the stuff we were excited about, we're still excited about, and all the stuff that's coming out next year. It's a good time to be a comic fan.
Absolutely, yeah. There's so much good stuff out there. No matter what you like, there is something out there for you. This year has been just as good. Oh, and I was gonna say, like, probably my favorite thing that, like, I would say DC is the publisher of the year for me.
Uh-huh.
Like, because they just like 2023 was DC's year. Just
They're
everything,
kind of
almost everything.
reinventing
Yeah,
themselves.
like, so I don't know. I just want to put that in there. But yeah, it's been a great year, and I cannot
Yeah.
wait to see what's next.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see what Marvel has next year. Maybe
Yeah.
the year of Marvel. It may be the year of Image. We don't know. Boom. Oni. Ablaze.
Titan with
Titan
Conan, they've
Vault.
got Savage Sword coming. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
it's gonna be great.
I think Dynamite is coming out with those things we were going to include on here, but we've got stuff like Thundercats coming
Yep.
out. We've got the Johnny Quest, Space Ghost. They've got all of these properties that are coming out.
All the stuff from Distillery,
Distillery.
which is only just getting started.
Yeah, I love the first issue of Somna. We're going to be
Hmm.
getting more of those. We're on the verge of another great year in comics.
Yep.
So hopefully you all have a comic book store that you can go to, or a comic book store you can order things from. Of course, we're fans of physical media here
Yep.
because that's what we sell. But also, I love seeing the rise once again of physical media with DVDs and physical games and some comics. Get your hand on some physical comics. You don't have to get everything ever. We read everything ever, but get the stuff you love. So you can have it for or your whole life. Give it to a friend, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's so great, and just enjoy comics however you enjoy them. If you don't have a comic book store, just remind you, infinityflux.net. You can head over there right now. Let me show you the old faithful video. We'll get a new updated one soon. But you can head over there. You can pre-order comics. Not a whole lot of new stuff right now
Yeah.
because of the holidays, but that will be changing in about a week or
About a
so.
yeah. This time next week, we should be starting to get back on track with some
Yeah.
of the DC and the Image stuff.
So head over to Infinity Flux comicscomicsbook.net right now. You can pre-order books. You can check out what we still have in stock. If a lot of these books we talked about, we've got some of those on there. If you haven't tried them out, or if you're local, stop by the store, pick up some stuff, try it out, talk to our helpful people here. We'd love to send you in the right direction of something we think would be perfect for you. That's the whole purpose of doing these videos. Has always been connecting the right people with the right books. Not every book is for everybody, but most books have an audience out there, and that's what we're trying to connect people with, and just sharing our love of comics and all of that good stuff. So, we will be back, I guess,
In the new year,
in the
right?
new
Yeah.
year.
I mean, this is the last video for 2023.
Yeah. So we'll see you on the other
Yeah.
side. Starting off a great year of new comics. And check us out Monday. We'll be back with
Wow, we'll be back on January 1st. The
January
first day of the
1st.
year, we'll have a video talking about next week's awesome books.
Yeah, we've got some good stuff lined up for you and a lot of fun announcements. We're not quite ready to announce them yet, but maybe some more fun videos and more ways that we can interact with all of y'all out
Hmm.
there in the new year. So, like always, thank you so much for watching.
Y'all have a good new year,
New,
safe new year, happy new year, all the good new year
all the
stuff. Yeah.
New Year's things. Watch that ball drop. See y'all later.
Bye.